So I was nerding out at 4 AM trying to figure out the best bow to use on Yoimiya, and here is what I found. Fenty doesn't have a butt! I'm bringing you on this journey of discovering the top 10 bows for Yoimiya. No matter if you are free to play, low spending, a lucky person, or a whale, I have the best bow for you. If you have taken part in the Windblume event, then you should have gotten this really aesthetic Windblume ode at Refinement 5. At first glance, this bow looks amazing for Yoimiya, with an Elemental Mastery substat to boost reaction damage, and a very attractive 32% attack bonus in its passive. It looks really promising at first. Unfortunately, the passive only lasts 6 seconds, when Yoimiya's whole rotation lasts 20 seconds. But the biggest flaw doesn't come with the weapon, but rather from Yoimiya herself. You see, vaporizing Yoimiya's normal attacks is inconsistent, and if you put her in a firecracker team, Yoimiya only triggers overload some of the time, depending on what supports you are running with her, which makes the bow's EM substat very bad. But even in ideal situations, this bow is still lacking behind 3-star weapons, so unfortunately, it is absolutely not worth using on Yoimiya. If you think the Blackcliff warbow would be the best on Yoimiya because it has crit damage for balance and a bunch of attack, well, that's what I thought too. But the stats are actually bait. At 0 stacks, the Blackcliff is worse than a 3-star bow. Do you really want a weapon that weak when it matters? When you're versus these boys? Probably not, right? If you are fighting groups of small mobs, then you mow them down so fast, the passive doesn't really matter anyways. And it's only good when there are a bunch of small mobs and a large one. But how often do you really run into this kind of situation? Maybe in dailies sometimes? And do you really want your Yoimiya to be only good at fighting mobs when she's supposed to be good at single target damage? I mean, I really wanted this bow to work because it would look so good on Yoimiya, but don't get baited by it because there are so many better options. We were always told to build crit stats, so how good would the Viridescent Hunt be? It does have a lot of crit rate, and the passive generates a vortex for 4 seconds that sucks in small enemies when your shots hits enemies. This bow looks really good on paper, but the passive actually wouldn't really work as well as we hope in combat because Yoimiya's shots are single target anyways. If you run the firecracker team, then enemies get scattered instantly anyways, and the AoE from her ult would never benefit from the grouping either because you would use the ult at the end of the combo when the vortex has long expired anyways. I'm not saying the Viridescent Hunt is terrible though, it's definitely one of the better ones. The problem is it doesn't synergize well with Yoimiya, and the fact that it is a paid weapon but isn't as good as this one, which is a free craftable. But before we look at the Demon Slayer, we must look at the other craftable bow, the prototype Crescent, because you probably already have one. It has an attack percent substat and a passive that gives you a thick attack boost for 10 seconds if you've hit a weak spot with a charged shot. If you manage to do that, then this could be the best free-to-play weapon you can get. The problem is it will take 2 to 4 seconds to do this every single rotation, and if you miss or get interrupted, that's more time wasted. And not every enemy have weak spots to hit either. Like, come on child, your head's right there. If you don't manage to hit a weak spot, then it's a bit worse than the Demon Slayer. This new Inazuma craftable bow, the Demon Slayer, looks really promising. Sure, it doesn't have as high of a base attack, but more than makes up for with a thick attack percent substat, and a passive that synergizes very well with Yoimiya. It gives a nice damage boost to your normal and charge attacks, and it's doubled when your energy is fully charged. So if you hold on to Yoimiya's ult until the end of her combo, you would get the full benefit of the bow's passive. But this is also where you may experience some problems. You would need to build up the 60 energy Yoimiya needs for her ult within 10 seconds before the start of her next rotation to take full advantage of the bow's passive. But to do that, you would need to invest in a lot of energy recharge on her, upwards of 40%. But if you actually do that, you would be taking away potential crit or attack rolls from your substats, which hurts your damage. If you don't build enough ER, then you're not utilizing the bow's passive fully, which hurts your damage. And because her ult represents this much of her damage and her only form of AoE, holding onto it and never using it is a terrible idea that hurts your damage. Its problems aside, this bow is really free-to-play friendly, and it's the best free-to-play weapon. Or so I thought. Enter the Slingshot. This bow lacks in base attack, but more than makes up for it with its 31.2% crit rate substat and a whopping 60% damage bonus to your shots, as long as they traveled less than 0.3 seconds in the air. And don't worry, this is farther than you might expect. Yeah, you'll be out of range first. And because this bow's stats just fit Yoimiya so very well, and you can easily get this to Refinement 5, this is actually the best free-to-play weapon, surpassing every single bow so far on this list other than the Demon Slayer at R4 or R5 in optimal situations. Yes, all of these bows, even at R5, are worse than the Slingshot in terms of DPS. The Slingshot is somehow just that good. If you're just starting out or not lucky enough to get the next bow we're going to cover, then I would highly recommend the Slingshot, as weird as that might sound. But say you have been playing for a while, or lucky enough to obtain the rust from the gacha system. The rust gives you a good amount of attack, and the passive synergizes really well with Yoimiya's playstyle, boosting her normal attack damage by 40% just at Refinement 1, and at high refinements, it even surpasses some of the 5 stars. And this one's gonna look good on Yoimiya as well. I mean, if you decide to play Charge Shot Yoimiya, then you would be better off with the Slingshot. I really can't pick on this bow other than the fact that it is a gacha weapon, but it is significantly better in terms of DPS than all of the bows so far. And before we get to Yoimiya's best in slot, I have something for you. Here's the chart that compares every bow at every single refinement. As you can see here, the Slingshot and Rust perform really well compared to everything else. Come join my Discord after the video if you want a copy of this chart. And if you found this video helpful so far, boop that like button so it spreads to more people. If you have this or this, Ganyu over here would like to have a word with you. I'm not going to waste your time on these two. They have amazing stats and passives, though high refined Rust beats them both. And unfortunately, you can't use the amos to its full potential because the bonus damage on its passive scales with the time the shot travels in the air, and Yoimiya's shots can only travel 0.3 seconds maximum before she is out of auto-targeting range. Her harp wins in consistency, dealing the same damage no matter the situation, providing both crit rate and crit damage in its substat and passive respectively, and even dealing some AoE damage on top of everything, so harp wins between the two. But if you have the means or want to try your luck on Yoimiya's signature bow, listen carefully, because if you get this wrong, you will lose a lot of damage. The Thundering Pulse would be Yoimiya's best in slot bow because of its very high crit damage that complements Yoimiya's innate crit rate scaling, and a very stacked passive that increases attack and normal attack damage at 3 increments according to these Thunder Emblem stacks. You gain 1 stack just by hitting normal attacks, 1 stack when you activate her skill for 10 seconds, some amazing synergy right there, and 1 stack when her ult isn't fully charged. And here is how to maximize these stacks. You want to start the fight with Yoimiya's ult straight away to clear her energy bar and trigger her team-wide attack buff, switch to your supports to use their skills and ult, back to Yoimiya to activate her skill and use normal attacks, repeat if necessary, and congrats, you've maximized Yoimiya's damage potential. I would love to know which bow you think is the best, let me know in the comments, and watch this video right here for a full analysis on Yoimiya. And I'll see you next time. Bye!